Today, in the nerdy news you need to know about, don't bet on more Last of Us. Layoffs at PlayStation, and Sega is going all in on its biggest franchises. Where the fuck is Crazy Taxi? We have all this and more because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Forbes 30 Under 30, a.k.a. New York Game Awards nominated, a.k.a. Magic the Gathering Poppy. Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good.
I don't know why I said it like that. I think it's the thing. At what point, when is it appropriate for somebody to ask, how are you doing? For me to be like, you know what I mean?
Whenever, man. You know how we talk to me about it. Fuck the show.
I don't know. I mean, it's
what's going on?
I don't know. It's not anything specific. It's just like I feel like the energy this
A
week is
general
weird.
malaise?
Yeah.
Really?
Like a couple days,
for the entire office or just you?
just me, but maybe the office. I don't
Okay.
know. Like I don't know if other people are feeling it.
Yeah.
I don't know if like there's a thing going around. But since what's today? Wednesday.
Yeah.
Since like Monday, I think I've had it where I've woken up on Tuesday and I'm like, This
Sure.
morning I woke up and I was like,
You know what the problem is?
What's that?
Not playing enough Monster Hunter.
Oh, trust me, I played enough. Yeah, yesterday I hit my breaking point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just gotta call it when I know a game is not for me.
Yeah.
I just gotta put it down.
I appreciate that. I love that
Do
about
you
that.
think it's the hangover of us playing Split Fiction and having such a high time with that, and then now you're in a
Reviews
week
up
of
right now?
like, oh damn,
That's true.
I got nothing going on.
I can't. Like, when am I gonna experience the high of a Split Fiction again?
Phew, that last hour, I won't say anything more, but
Oh.
goddamn.
Could be. But here's the thing: is like I keep picking up Outer Wilds because I've been slow playing it, and like that game is giving me so much joy. I
Yeah.
think it's also the thing though where I'm not finding the time to just play Outer Wilds, like sit down and just have that be the
Wait,
game.
this 5-year-old game or whatever it is?
Yeah, but like it's a 5-year-old game that is giving me so much joy.
Hell yeah.
But it's also like one where I feel like I have to like fight for time for me to sit down and play it. So I'm
I got
playing
a real
it 30
simple
minutes at a
answer
time.
for you on how to make some time. Don't play volleyball at 10:30 at night.
What
are you fucking doing?
This is the last game of the season.
Thank God that's over with. Now
Oh
you get
man!
back to
Oh,
gaming.
I'm signing up for another season. We're running it back. Volleyball is the best sport. I love volleyball. It's such a fun time.
What makes that better than soccer and all the other sports you guys have played?
I'm better at it.
that'll do it.
I
That'll
am
do
so
it,
bad
yeah.
at soccer,
Yeah.
and like as a team, we're not great at volleyball. Like we didn't get any volleyball wins
Sure,
this season
sure.
either. But at the
But
very
the love
least,
of the game.
yeah, like I'm playing it for the love of the game. I feel like I am competent at volleyball, and like there's a level of input that I feel like I can give toward volleyball because I know how to bump, I know how to set, I know how to like I have the reflexes that I think are tailor made for volleyball as opposed to soccer. I get the ball and all of a sudden like it's like I have two left feet, right? I'm
Yeah.
tripping over myself. I'm like, what am I doing here? I love soccer in theory, but playing soccer is a different thing for me.
Sure.
I don't know what happened because in middle school I was better at soccer somehow. As an adult, I just don't have it anymore.
Jen tells this story of what was the last trip I went on? The one,
Montreal, Chicago,
something like that. I don't know. The last thing I
New
went
York.
and did for whatever. It was a work trip.
Was it New York?
Royal Rumble. When I was at Royal Rumble, Jen started playing Mario Kart with Ben. And of course, she was just beating the shit out of Ben. And she felt so good about it. She was coming in first every time. And then I came back and showed her what a real Mario Kart player looks like. And granted, my glory days are
That's
behind
cute.
me. Barrett's way better than me. Let me give you your fucking flowers.
That's
Before you
cute,
start
Greg.
insulting me. Arrow! I'm not like Tim and fucking Barrett who are like playing out on planes for the rest of their lives or whatever. But I'm good at Mario Kart. Not great. I'm a good amateur. I'm a great amateur Mario Kart player. I'm not a professional like Barrett and Tim. Anyways, I digress. Came back and just beat the socks off her. She's like, "Oh, this fucking
yeah.
sucks." You know what I mean? And then the computer was better because I was there, so she was losing the computer now. I feel like that's how I feel when I'm at Ben's soccer practice. And like I start kicking the ball around, I'm like, I could do this.
Yeah.
I'm playing with Ben. I'm kicking it. I'm doing little passes. I'm
Like,
doing
I got
big
this stuff
kicks. I'm
here.
flipping up. I'm like, I got.
Do you want to sign up for a soccer team?
No, but I'm
Oh.
like, because that's the thing. I know I'd step out there and they'd be like, oh, right, this is what a real person plays like. This is what a
Yeah.
real thing happens. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know where the malaise is coming from, but I'm hoping I cruise through it.
I mean, the seasons of life.
It is what it is.
I got good news for you.
What's that?
WWE 2K25 comes out on Friday.
Dude,
You could go to the island.
I'm excited to play the game. I don't know how I feel about the island yet, but like I'm so excited to pick up this game. I've been thinking about it just for the last however many weeks, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
wrestling's been heating up for WrestleMania season.
Your kid telling me.
And like in the same way that I'm just picking up Outer Wilds randomly, I'm like, man, if I had 2K25 just installed in my PS5, the way I would just do random matches,
Yeah.
just pick up, beat Jacob Fatu doing swanton bombs on people.
God, Jacob Fatu. The Simone Wolverine.
What, do we have plans like of what we're doing with WWE?
No, our audience really doesn't like it.
It's fucked up. It's messed up.
I was like, again, it comes out on Friday, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be gone. So it's like I was like, oh, that sucks. And like I was debating, like, well, what do we do about reviews? What do we do about this? And then I went back and looked at the review numbers, like, oh, these numbers
Yeah.
suck.
Like,
no one
nobody's
cares.
watching the 2K25
Everybody
review.
shows up to humor Greg. They're like, all right, what do you think? You know what I mean? It's like,
Is it how messed up is it that like I think the things that we love the most are the things that our audience doesn't care about?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like I'm having like the ultimate like Magic the Gathering moment right now, and I'm like, I know if I make a piece of content about Magic,
Yeah.
like 7,000 of you will watch it,
Yeah.
and not the 20,000 that we're looking
I was
for
looking at it,
for
I'm
a
like, you
video.
know what? It's just like, it was just a relief to me of like, all right, I don't feel like I'm letting anybody down by it. And I'm like, next week, there can be a Gamescast, what you've been playing or whatever, put it in there, or I can just talk about it on a show like this or whatever and have something to say, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. So I don't have to fret about it. I like that. But it's, yeah, man, I really care. Okay, well, that's not a thing. You know
We're
what
on
I
a
mean?
stream. We can do it. We can do a stream.
Oh, you can stream for sure.
Yeah.
But the problem is, guess what? It's Pokemon Nicklocke 2, everybody. Fucking
Yuck.
Nick. You know what I mean?
I've been saying
Nick
this
gets
whole
400 viewers, thinks he did something around here. You know what I mean?
time. Golly,
Guy sucks.
just cancel it.
Speaking of canceling things, this is Kind of Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy video game news you need to know about live on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, and podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, we'd love it if you picked up a Kind of Funny membership. You can give us $10 on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, patreon.com/kindoffunny, Apple or Spotify, and you'd get all of our shows. That's more than 20 a week ad-free, and you'd get your daily dose of me, Greg Miller, and a podcast/video we call Gregway. That's usually 15 to 20 minutes each and every weekday. However, no bucks tossed our way, no big deal. Of course, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, ring the bell, use your Amazon Prime on our Twitch. You get it. There's a million ways to do it, but leave reviews and share it with your Kind of Funny best friends so they know to come hang out with us. If you are watching live, you can be involved in the show as we go. We'd love your YouTube super chats. If you're on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames watching live, you can super chat to hopefully be read on the show when we talk about the news or whatever nonsense you want to scream about. Housekeeping for you. Remember, we're an 11-person small business all about live talk shows, and we do so much even though there's just 11 of us. Let's start with this. Enter the Greggy-Verse with this month's premium collector item featuring over 24 versions of Greg Miller, beautifully crafted by the incredible Pandamusk. Of course, Pandamusk has been drawing me my entire career. He is far too talented and knows way too much about my nipples and chest hair. You can grab this on patreon.com/kindoffunny. Of course, you could go to kindoffunny.com/premium and see all the different premium collector items we have done throughout the years. This year, for our 10th anniversary, Pandamusk is doing an amazing poster each and every month. You could go see January, February, and now March, all at kindoffunny.com/premium. Next one for you. Pack your bags, trainers, because we're headed to Johto. The next chapter of our Pokemon Nicklocke journey begins this Friday. Join us after Gamescast for the start of our SoulSilver Nicklocke with a special new main character exclusively on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. That's right. It's another marathon stream on Friday. You can watch it only on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. Obviously, things will leak onto YouTube as they come and do their thing. Of course, don't miss Saturday's 3-hour recap of the first Nicklocke from the one, the only Evan Young over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. And then tonight, you can catch the archive at 5 o'clock, unless Mike changes something, which he likes to do, of our 12-hour Monster Hunter Wild stream. If you missed that on Twitch, 12 hours of that is going live tonight at 5 p.m. on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames.
I did just see the back end. It still says 5 p.m. So
If that wasn't enough of long-form, crazy-ass content we don't normally do, tomorrow, Thursday, you aren't getting a stream. Instead, you are getting the YouTube premiere on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames of me and Tim playing through the entirety of Split Fiction. We recorded our entire review playthrough. It is set to go up tomorrow after Gamescast, unless something horribly goes wrong. But what are the odds? Let's talk about today. Today, after Kind of Funny Games Daily, you're going to get the Kind of Funny Gamescast, where we're going to talk about how we'd save WB Games. After that, you are getting a Kind of Funny Screencast. It's Daredevil Born Again episode 1 and 2. We all watched it last night. We're all excited about it. I can't wait. And then the stream is supposed to be Bless playing Dark Souls.
And that's going to be based on if Andy is healthy or not.
We'll see how that goes. That's how we got into Monster Hunter territory last time. If you're a Kind of Funny member, today's Gregway is 16 minutes about how I'm flying to the East Coast tomorrow to be in a movie.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
They casted you?
Yeah.
Fantastic Four?
You're
You're going to be the Silver Surfer? Congratulations.
I'm going to go be in an independent movie. I talk about it on today's Gregway. This is not clickbait. I'm actually doing that. So go read about that and hear about this goofy little life I lead. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Delaney Twining, Carl Jacobs, Omega Buster, and Karen Lindener. Today we're brought to you by Monster Hunter Now, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news. Over here, Crab Daddy says, making of a murderer. That's funny. I like that. 5 items on the Roper Report.
A baker's dozen.
Number 1 on the Roper Report. Quote, don't bet on there being more Last of Us, end quote. Asked about The Last of Us 3, Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann says, this could be it. This is Jordan Gerblick over at Games Radar. And I hate to correct you on the air, Bless, but remember, it is Games Radar.
Sorry.
Plus.
Yes.
All right. Turns out just a cool 10 years ago
Put up
they
your
added
pluses.
that. They added that. We never did it. Super Chat, I want your answers to this question. Would you be fine with no more Last of Us games? We go to Games Radar Plus, where Jordan writes, and also I don't know how I feel about another Jordan in the video game.
Oh, Gerblick? He's been around.
No, I know, but I mean Midler's been just dominating. You know
but
what
I feel
I mean?
like Gerblick's probably been around before Midler, right? Like Midler came on the scene a few years ago.
Here's what I'm saying though. It's just like
He might have been around for a decade.
You got
I don't know.
Michael Jordan and then you got Michael B. Jordan. All right, like you know what I mean?
Should we have these Jordans fight?
No, I don't want anybody to fight. And also Midler.
That's a first.
I don't
name.
know.
That's like being. That's like we have.
Hold on, I got a good insult.
There's so many Michaels.
I don't know at what point you go from being a human being to being a troll, but Midler's. He's in the middle of that evolution. If it's the Animorph cover, you go from a normal sized person, there's be a Midler, and then there'd be the giant troll.
You like in terms of growing.
Yeah,
okay, I
Jordan
see what
Midler's
you're
still a
saying.
very large person.
Yes.
And I don't mean like heavy. I mean like this guy's head. Midler, what's up with your head? You know what I mean, Jordan?
You can't say that to people.
Jordan's my bro.
You can't look at somebody and be like, "What's up with your head?"
I just
That's
did.
not something you can control.
I mean, I'm sorry. This is Kind of Funny Games Daily. This is all the nerdy news you need to know about. Someone's got a report of the size of Midler's head, his hands.
But it's not just his head, though. Like,
Imagine
he's a large man. That's okay.
Can you imagine this scene? Because I get told all the time. It's hilarious that I drive a Mini Cooper because I'm so large.
Yes.
Imagine when I picked up at an EA event Jordan Midler to take him to In-N-Out, and it's me in my car, and then he gets in the car, and I'm like, we're the 2 largest men in the history ever to be in a Mini Cooper.
Just fucking like up against the window, trying. Just fucking not fitting in that car.
Oh my God, Jordan Midler, we love you. We just want you to go to a doctor and make sure it's normal.
It's just the thing of like. Because it's not like his head is large and the rest of his body is small. All of his features are large.
Oh, he's just large.
He's just a large man. But it's not like he's the largest man. But there is something about the way that he's large that is very interesting.
Are you awake? I don't know what time it is where he is. We're going to see if he can dial in and tell us about how large he is.
It's like,
change the thumbnail.
It's
Why
like,
is Jordan Midler so large? Kind of Funny Games Daily.
I want to see the 23andMe. Of like, do you come from a lineage?
All right.
Of large people.
What time is it? Where does he live? He's over in. What's the Londonish, Scotlandish, Irelandish time over there right now?
I don't know. Probably like midnight.
UK time. 6:14 p.m.
Oh, wow. Really? They're still awake.
Are you? Yeah. So I said, are you awake? And I'm gonna say, we got a
He's
lot
definitely awake.
of questions. Think about the amount of power it takes to move that body. Who knows how long he has to sleep?
That's fair. That's like when an Ant-Man gets all large.
And then we got orange slices. We got a lot of questions about how big
We were talking about Last of Us just now.
you are. And I'm going to put period, send it. And then I'm going to put in parentheses, live on KFGD. Join the Discord if you're awake.
Tell him to turn on video.
Turn on video. Bring a banana for scale. All right, we'll see if Midler. Barrett, you watch the Discord for me, all right?
I will.
Thank you. We put out the Midler signal. Back to the news. Don't bet on The Last of Us Part 3 ever happening, says Naughty Dog studio head Neil Druckmann. It's been a lingering question whether Naughty Dog would follow up 2020's acclaimed The Last of Us Part 2 with another sequel. And in an interview with Variety, Druckmann gave us our clearest answer yet. No, probably not. Quote, I was waiting for this question, Druckmann said. I guess the only thing I would say is don't bet on there being more Last of Us. This could be it, end quote.
Interesting.
Believe that about as far as I can throw this desk.
Oh, you don't believe it?
No.
He just said no, probably not. He gave you a clear answer.
I feel...
He said no, probably not. You're calling Neil a liar.
I mean, I've said that for years. But my problem here is the fact that I think this is just trying to put the genie back in the bottle. He's said so many other times, we've got an outline, I've got an idea, I've got this thing. I'm sure at some point, PlayStation, probably HBO are like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like, calm down. We'll make a big beat when we say that. We don't want to just say it all the time.
It is interesting that Neil, I guess not interesting is the wrong word. Neil having the authority to say, well, I'm trying to read the question verbatim, right? It's been a lingering question, and Druckmann gave us our clearest answer yet. No, probably not. And that is him responding to, is there going to be another sequel to The Last of Us Part 2? Neil having the authority to straight up say no. I think it's interesting in the sense that PlayStation owns Last of Us, right? Not Naughty Dog.
Yep.
And so, but like PlayStation, I think is also very friendly to their studios in the way that, hey,
for now,
yeah, hey, Naughty Dog, like Last of Us is yours. Hey, Gorilla, like Horizon is yours. Hey, Sucker Punch, like Ghost of Tsushima, you guys, these IPs belong.
Hey,
to
Sony
you.
Bent, Days Gone is yours.
Yeah, like
we won't get in big fights or have you guys fight with us publicly all the time about everything we do. Deacon St. John.
So, but theoretically, Neil can't for sure say this, right?
Yes, there's a lot of if this then that then that bop bop beep bop. I think. There's a lot to unpack here. I never say never in video games is definitely the first thing to say, right?
Yeah.
And then to jump in here about like I don't believe as far as I can throw the desk. I just think there is some. Let's backtrack a bit. We want to talk about Intergalactic. We want to talk about the show season 2. We don't want to keep getting talking about part 3.
Especially when Last of Us 3 is a twinkle in your eye.
If we say, which I do believe,
I
do believe that, we have an outline. I have an idea for a story. I haven't noodled it. Hallie and him haven't sat down and gone, oh, this, that, and then written a script. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's anywhere like that. But I think there's an idea, and I think it's there. But I think for now, they want to focus on other things and not have to have this question all the time, even though they will still have this question all the time, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And I also think then there's that segment. Then there's this segment as a creator that and I say this not knowing nothing, but if Neil stays with video games, right? I think, obviously Hollywood's opening up a lot of opportunities, I imagine, for him and showing the world how talented he is, which I can only imagine would be a nice, I've done this for a long time and I want to flex this muscle and go do the next thing with Craig Mazin, whatever that would be, blah, blah. If Neil stays here, he knows the audience. He knows how passionate they are. He knows how vocal they're going to be. And I think you can go do
Intergalactic.
Did I say Interstellar before? Intergalactic. Go do Intergalactic, do something else, or an Intergalactic 2, and then come back to, now we're doing a Last of Us Part 3, right? Mm-hmm. Because when we talk about video, wow! Whoa! Look how large he is! I told you! Jordan Miller, how are you?
Very well. I'm in the currently being renovated bathroom of my partner and not Little Chechnya, as you can see. What's this about me being big? I'm just a normal sized guy, thanks.
No, you're humongous. We're talking about how big you are. Why are you so big?
I don't know, the growth hormones and the water in Scotland. I have this is a normal sized can of Monster next to my head, if that works for you.
I guess, yeah.
Here's a full-size can of deodorant as well.
That's a tiny can of deodorant. I can't tell what size that is.
I'm sorry, I'm not really equipped for prop comedy. It's not one of my number one skills. Why were you talking about me? Was it one of my excellent news stories?
No, we started talking about Jordan Gerblick at Games Radar Plus, and I was like, well, I don't know how I feel about there being 2 Jordans, and then we got into the whole Jordan conversation and Jordan Midler.
Greg really just steered into calling you large. Like, I don't think that was part of the conversation at all.
No, I brought that up.
Yeah.
It's one of those things people say all the time. We mention a name on the show. They don't know who we're talking about. But now they know Jordan Midler is very large. It just makes sense. You know what I mean? And again, we were very clear. You're not fat. It's just you're exaggerated. All you like,
Already exaggerated.
First of all, that's very kind and untrue.
Thank
you. I'm not that large. You're a huge human being, so I don't.
But that's
really
my
see...
thing. I'm a big guy. Like when I told the story of you getting in the Mini Cooper with me, and I was like, oh my God. Like, what, two huge men are in this car.
I mean, it's not me that has such a perversion that decides to buy a Mini Cooper with a Union Jack, a British flag on it as well, which is frankly disgusting. But yeah, big guy, 9'8". Don't have anything. Here's an AirPod next to me. Does that work for you? I'm also looking at myself in the interface of like the background behind you, and it just looks like I've murdered someone in this.
It does look like you're the Joker sending us a ransom message, but yeah.
Yeah, you guys hear about that Bam Margera? Pretty bad news.
Did that make the news report?
No, that he's not in Tony Hawk 3.
Yeah, Jordan got the scoop.
Oh, you got the scoop.
Yeah, VGC.news. He went through. He teased on Blue Sky. I'm about to write the saddest news story I've ever had to in my career, and then he followed up with Bam Margera is not in Tony Hawk 3 and 4.
Oh, I would have guessed that. I would have assumed he's not in there.
Yeah,
All right.
Most people would have guessed that, but anyway, let me get on with my life. It's like 6 o'clock here. Go away.
Yeah, we weren't sure.
Bye-bye.
We thought you might be asleep. Jordan, we love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you too.
All right, bye.
What a nice young man.
So I think, audience-wise, he knows people would want it, and there'd be enough time there too. And then the third prong on this fork of Last of Us Part 3, right, would be, I think, PlayStation owns it. And so, like, I agree with you. And everything we've seen, and I know, what about Concord, and what about Days Gone, and what about all this stuff? I do believe, from everything I've ever heard or seen, is that it is a collaborative process at PlayStation. It isn't PlayStation top-down saying, Naughty Dog, you're making this. Insomniac, you're making this. I think some studios get less of that freedom, but I don't think you'd walk into Naughty Dog and say, this is what it is. But I could easily see a future where Neil moves on, or, as we talk about all the time with Matt Piscatella and everyone just in the news stories, the winds continue to change in the video game industry, and PlayStation is not on the ropes, but is only finding success in their big exclusives. And then you have that thing of like, similar to what we've seen in so many other news reports, right? Of like, oh, we're doubling down on our IP. We're doubling down on these franchises. The Sega bullet point from the top of the show, right? And have an all-hands meeting where Herman's like, yo, studios, we need to double down on successful IP. And I think it's similar to what we talked about with the closure of so many studios of you get from the top that, hey, we'd really like live service games, and they kind of talk themselves into making a live service game. Not that that would be the thing here, but it is the idea of like, well, we could go back to the Last of Us world. We could do a Last of Us 3. Would it be part 3? Would it just be another story in the world? Yada, yada, yada. A million different things, but I would bet the house you have not seen the end of The Last of Us in video game form.
Yeah, I try to look into the actual Variety article to see the exact wording of the question, because I do wonder if they're asking Neil about like, hey Neil, are you going to make another Last of Us 3 type thing, right? And like I'm at the end of the Variety article here, which reads, and this is an article that is about the Last of Us TV show season 2, but they ended it here saying, then there's the long whispered possibility of The Last of Us Part 3. Quote, I was waiting for this question, Druckmann says, citing when I bring up the prospect of a third game, I guess the only thing I would say is don't bet on there being more Last of Us. This could be it. End quote. So he's not even just talking about himself, right? It seems like he's talking about the idea of a Last of Us 3, which he might be connecting himself to, or might be connecting Naughty Dog to. And I think wrapped up in all the things you're just saying there, right? I think there is the idea of what you said at the beginning. Hey, we're focused on Intergalactic right now. We want this to be the topic of the conversation. We want this to be the focus because this is our next few years, this Naughty Dog. And then also, how far along are you with Last of Us 3? When do you envision a Last of Us 3 even coming out, if you envision it coming out, right? Like, if we're talking about Intergalactic coming out, let's say 2027, then are we talking about 2032, 2033 for Last of Us 3? Is that even a thing you want to even be thinking about at this point? Or do you just want to be like, hey, that's not a thing right now?
Yeah.
It is just Intergalactic. It's Intergalactic until we start to ramp down on, you know, the work we're doing on that. Then we'll start ramping up the work on whatever our next thing is, which could be Last of Us 3, or maybe it's Intergalactic 2. Like, I think that's another conversation to be had as far as if Intergalactic is the start of a franchise, do you then go, all right, Intergalactic 2026 or 2027, all right, we're going to spend the next 4 years working on another Last of Us game and then come back to Intergalactic 4 years later, so it's going to be 8 to 10 years between Intergalactic games?
Yeah.
Or do you do what Sony Santa Monica just did with God of War and go, hey, here's God of War 2018, boom, here's God of War Ragnarok 6 years later, 5 years later, whatever it is, and try to treat these franchises a bit more, I guess, actively in terms of putting out releases? Because if you go back to Last of Us, that puts Intergalactic on ice for probably a decade.
For sure. I think, depending on team sizes, ramps up, yada, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would say it's more likely in my mind that it would go Intergalactic, some kind of Uncharted thing, than Intergalactic 2. A smaller thing, like we're always talking about, like, what would you do with the Uncharted? I mean, people, every so often comes around, people would love to see Uncharted again. No spoilers for the last Uncharted, but they leave you with somebody you could run with that could be a fun game. That could be a smaller game, too. Let's not make this giant game with any open world
They
thing.
made Lost Legacy, like they they did that in a very quick turnaround as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
There is the capacity to do that, but will they?
Great question. Again,
Good question.
People want money, and as Last of Us continue, I think honestly, for me, what's even more interesting about all of this is what happens with Last of Us when seasons 2 and 3 finish the story of Last of Us Part 2. Like, are we just done with that, or do they say we have more stories to tell here and we want to tell them, and we're going to?
Yeah. My thing is, and this might be a bigger conversation, right? Because I think now, once I get into this, I'm starting to think decades ahead of Naughty Dog, and at that point, it's fairy tale. But in talking about my Intergalactic thing of, hey, you want to keep this franchise active, Naughty Dog so far has been knocking out the park in the last 2 generations, I guess 2.5 generations, whatever you want to call it, as far as Uncharted into Last of Us into now a new IP that people are excited about. How many IPs can you make that are going to end up as like PlayStation main, like top tier IPs until PlayStation looks at you and goes, hey, you can't support all these IPs. We need to give this to somebody else.
But
like,
then you lose it, right? Then you lose the sauce. That'd be the complaint.
Yeah,
the
but
concern.
like, would you rather try to give it to somebody else and lose the sauce, or never have another Uncharted ever again? Because like you're as not like
I'd rather someone else create like a different creative, get another crack at it. Yeah,
yeah, like you can't support 3 different IP as Naughty Dog.
Barry went the wrong. Honestly, for me, as just a games, we're in the games vacuum. I'd much rather it be we're done with this and we're putting it down and we're moving on.
Yeah,
like we're not, because I think you just get into a point where you get what Sony Ben got with Golden Abyss for Uncharted, where it's like, it's good, but it's not Naughty Dog. You know what I mean? It's Jack and Daxter Lost Frontier, where it's like, yeah, this is good, but it's not a real Jack and Daxter game, and these are both Naughty Dog IPs. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, we're passing this to someone else, and they have such a fucking dialed in fan base that wants and knows this stuff so well that you just can't be that thing.
The other argument, I know we're talking about Naughty Dog specifically, but the God of War PSP games were not made by Sony Santa Monica, and a lot of people would, Ready at Dawn, and a lot of people would argue that those are some of their favorites in the franchise.
Sure, I would too, yeah.
I think for me, there's the business way of thinking about it and the creative way of thinking about it. I think the creative way of thinking about it, and this goes back to the super chat question, is, man, I would be so down for no more Last of Us. If you said, hey, Last of Us 2 is the last Last of Us game, and we envision that as the end of this franchise, I think that'd be a beautiful thing, and that'd be so freeing as like a creative.
And then you get into this thing where, again, I think there's the wiggle room of making a Last of Us that just isn't Joel Ellie or whatever. We're making Last of Us, and it's I was going to say Sony London, but rest in peace. It's whatever. It's another studio. It is Sucker Punch. It's whoever. It's a third party they contract with, and we are making Last of Us : London. Yeah. And it is what it was like for the Outbreak here, and it starts from day one. There is no time jump. You're playing that. And there's ways to play in these universes that just don't stomp all over.
And that's where I get into the business sense of it, where if I'm CEO of PlayStation, if I'm head of PlayStation Studios, I am going, hey, I'm sorry, we're not ripping Last of Us away from you, but somebody else is going to make a Last of Us thing. Somebody else is making an Uncharted thing. Like, we just struck out on Concord, and we got Fair Games that we don't know if that's coming out. And like, we don't know. Like, we had a plan to make money, and that plan hasn't worked. The right plan to make money right now is to look at our biggest IPs and go, hey, let's continue feeding our audiences with Uncharted and Last of Us.
And this is where you get into that art versus business. And me in the games vacuum of just when I play games, and I really think of what I think of the PlayStation 2, maybe even just PS3 generation, right? Of being able to do something and move on from it and not have to sequelize all the time because it wasn't the business thing. Is like, where does that go? Because again, to even talk about Last of Us London, the Last of Us multiplayer, we almost got all these different things. I do think it starts to water down the franchise. And I say that as a Walking Dead fan who, goddamn, Telltale, Walking Dead comics, of course, but goddamn Telltale, The Walking Dead season 1, and then season 2, and then 400 Days, and then Michonne, and it's like, now I don't even think about that franchise because everything they did in continuing Clem's story the way they did, I wish in retrospect, goddamn, they should have just left it. They should have just left Clem seeing the 2 silhouettes on the hill, credits. Like, what the fuck were we doing? Where were we going? We still talk about that. Where is that? It was such a powerful thing, blah, blah. Like, I feel all that legacy is lost. But again, I understand the business of it. I understand what we're trying to do. Sorry.
No, just lost legacy. Legacy is lost. I just like that connection. But I will say the pushback I'll give to that is the amount of Walking Dead we got from Telltale and the amount of Telltale games we got in how many years? Like 5 years, 7 years versus we've gotten 2 Last of Us games since 2013, right?
Sure.
I feel like you can sprinkle 2 more in that time period and it won't be as watered down, right?
Sure.
I think it would be fine. But there's a balance to it, right? I don't think you can overplay the Last of Us thing. I don't think you can overplay your biggest franchises because then you do get into that. But I think having one other studio work on a Last of Us thing, like I don't know. I think there's a balance there, or even an Uncharted thing. I think there's a balance there that allows us to have our cake and eat it too.
Let's check in with those super chats and see what they're saying. Kebab super chats and says yes. In terms of the question exactly right was, would you be fine with no more Last of Us games? Kebab says yes. Tilu is never my thing. I want happy Naughty Dog back. I'm interested to see how happy Intergalactic is.
We'll see.
Yeah. Jam Van says, I can live with no more Last of Us. After the part 2 mess, I can completely understand Naughty Dog being gun shy about going back unless they have something to say. Here's my thing on that one is I don't think them stepping away from not doing more Last of Us would be because of the reaction of the trolls and the assholes. Mm-hmm. I assure you that as knowing nothing other than watching the trailer, Intergalactic is going to piss off bigots as well. People who don't want strong female characters.
Oh, it's already doing
gender
that.
Identities. Yeah, like they're not going to be
woman
thrilled
with a shaved head.
Yeah,
how
exactly.
dare they?
Not even worth it.
I do think the Last of Us 2 critique / hate goes beyond that though, right? Like I think a big part of it obviously is bigots, but I do think there's elements of of like how much of a tonal shift it was as far as like it being about hate, it being about violence, right? And like I think it leaving a bad taste in people's mouths during the pandemic, especially for a story like that, right? I remember coming out of Last of Us 2 and not feeling good. Like I look at that game as art and I like the game, right? But like I don't think I can ever play that game again.
Interesting. I read into the mess as the outcry of gamers, capital G, not the actual criticisms of story and this, that, the other.
But I do think that all of it works together as far as, man, Last of Us 2 is just a very charged game as far as subject matter. And now that world is a charged world to go back to. Sure. And I could see them being like, all right, let's make new worlds. Like we still want to make art, obviously. We still want to make our statements or whatever, but can we do this in new worlds that aren't as charged?
Dear Sixlet says, Tilu may be good, but it's also a huge bummer. Naughty Dog should make more different stuff. PlayStation doesn't need more serious cinematic games. It needs variety. We'll see on that one. Krabby Patty says Tilu is top 10 for me, but let it end. Jim C says The Last of Us Part 2 is my favorite game of all time, but I'm honestly okay if they choose not to continue the story. But that's just me. Jumping off of that one, that's how I always felt about The Last of Us, period. Last of Us Part 1 now. But like, that's another game that I would have loved to have just let sit. Like, I don't get me wrong, Last of Us Part 2 is art. I had a great time with that. I forget what we gave it. I gave it or whatever, but I love that game. But yeah, I could have been like, just leave it there with the sigh from Ellie in the credits. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
CJ says, I think Naughty Dog's brand is bigger than Tilu and Uncharted, which I agree with as well. And then the final one jumps in now. Volk Dasher. With being part of the writing on the TV show, Neil might be more content with how it ended. And I bet we get an episode or 2 that take place after the game's ending. They will be expanding on things like they have on other episodes.
I could see that.
I'd really like an episode or 2 after the events of Last of Us Part 2.
I think if you don't plan to make more games, then yeah, I think that'd be a perfect bow to tie on it. Because I think there are so many of us that do wonder, all right, what was the next step for Ellie? Like, what did Ellie do after this, right? Like, is there an epilogue to the story beyond the epilogue that we got in the video game already. I think the TV show could be a good way to handle that if you handle it well. If you fuck it up, then oof.
Don't fuck it up. That's
Don't
all you
fuck
gotta
it
do.
up.
Just don't fuck it up. You know what I mean? Real quick, I usually let your wrongs cook right until the end of the show, but since they're here right now, Kebabs pops in and says on kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. Greg said that The Lost Frontier is good, but it's not a real Jack game. I haven't heard any Jack fans say that The Lost Frontier is good. I would take you then to IGN.com's review of Jack and Daxter: The Lost Frontier by Greg Miller, where the conclusion reads, I enjoyed Jack and Daxter: Lost Frontier. I'm a fan of the series and thought the platforming was fun, the puzzles using powers were cool, and the upgrading of ships and Jack provided some depth. Unfortunately, the empty environments, camera issues, and repetitive nature of some of the battles ding the game to the point that I can't give it a glowing recommendation. There's fun to be had here, but it could have been polished a bit more to bring out the value. I gave it a 7.4, which is a good on the IGN scale. So Kebabs, you can fuck right off into the sun.
Damn.
Thank you.
Damn.
Thank you.
Got her ass.
Goodbye. Speaking of sad news, number 2 on the Roper Report. PlayStation has been hit with more layoffs following recent game cancellations. I always say Z. I always drop the Z in there for some reason.
I feel like we should add it. I think we
Just
can
take it back?
Yeah, like we write to Webster and be like, yo, let's add a Z to cancelization.
This is Ethan Gotch over at Kotaku, whose article I'll get to in 1 second after I remind you about the Kinda Funny membership. If you didn't know, we're an 11-person small business doing big things, all about live talk shows. If you like hanging out with us for Kinda Funny Games Daily, hanging out for the Gamescast, hanging out for the Screencast, then watching us record crazy streams in the afternoon, it'd be awesome if you chipped in. $10 gets you the Kinda Funny membership, and you can get shows no ads. You can get me, Gregway, and you can have a good time supporting a small business. But right now, you're not using your membership benefits, so here's a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Monster Hunter Now. Whether I'm taking Ben to the playground, soccer practice, or on a hike with Jen, I'm wandering the outdoors more than ever. That's where Monster Hunter Now comes in. It's an authentic Monster Hunter experience on your mobile that lets you find and hunt monsters in the real world using your phone, whether you're out on a walk, commuting, or just need a quick hunting break between your console sessions. And right now, there's no better time to jump in because Monster Hunter Now is running an epic collaboration event with Monster Hunter Wilds, packed with surprises that any Monster Hunter fan won't want to miss. Let's talk about the good stuff. For the first time, a monster from Monster Hunter Wilds has made its way into Monster Hunter Now. Players can also experience the thrill of riding a Sacred from Monster Hunter Wilds with the new layered equipment and so much more. This won't be available once the event ends, so don't miss your chance to get it while you can, and don't you worry about me and that Sacred look. I already unlocked it. But that's not all. By completing event quests, you'll unlock a special gift code that can be redeemed in Monster Hunter Wilds. These rewards will give you an early head start, making sure you're geared up and ready to take on the next big adventure. So if you haven't already, now's the perfect time to download Monster Hunter Now. It's free to play, and trust me, once you start hunting monsters in the real world, you'll be hooked. Go to kindafunny.com/MH now, jump into the event before it's gone, and I'll see you out there. Remember, that's kindafunny.com/MH now. Happy hunting. Rathalos is dead. Don't worry about it, everybody. Where are all these Chatacabras? I need 2 6-star Chatacabras.
The ad is over, Greg.
Well, this is the reality of how I actually play the game that's sponsoring us, which is great.
During the ad read, he was like, I love this ad read because it reminds me to check in.
I got to check in to find these 2 goddamn Chatacabras. Nick, Google where these 6-star Chatacabras are. I see once in a while, like a 4-star one. That ain't going to help me do the goddamn thing.
Chatacabra is a chupacabra, but it's chatty?
Yeah. Hello. Thank you to everyone who sent me friend requests in Monster Hunter Now too, by the way. I'm enjoying playing with you. I digress. Back to number 2. PlayStation hit with more layoffs following recent game cancellations. Ethan Gotcha, Kotaku. The PlayStation-owned studio Visual Arts was hit with fresh layoffs this week amid a further restructuring of Sony's U.S. game development operations. While some of the cuts included staff who had contributed to recently canceled projects like an upcoming live service game at Bend Studio, a source told Kotaku the layoffs were more widespread than that. Earlier this week, an unknown number of staff at Visual Arts Group based out of San Diego were informed that their last day at work would be March 7th. The team provides internal art and technical support to first-party PlayStation studios and worked closely with Naughty Dog on the recent Last of Us Part 1 and 2 remasters, among other projects. Sony did not immediately respond to our request for comment. Quote, "It was tough waking up to messages that many friends and former coworkers from PSVA were laid off this morning," said former PSVA project manager Abby Lamaster, now at Riot Games, and they posted this on LinkedIn on Monday. Quote, "The layoffs today hit hard. PSVA let go of developers with decades of subject matter experience, talent that will be extraordinarily difficult to recoup. This industry can be unpredictable, but the skill, experience, and passion of the people I worked with at PSVA are undeniable," end quote. The layoffs come after an expensive failure in last year's Concord, new rounds of live service project cancellations, including a reported God of War spinoff at Bluepoint Games, and a reorganization within the top echelons of Sony leadership. In January, Hiroki Totoki became the company's new CEO, and Hideki Nishino became the sole CEO of PlayStation, with Herman Hulse, who had previously been co-CEO, reporting to him as the ongoing head of PlayStation Studios. If that wasn't enough, blessing Eddie Oye Jr., while I was hunting this Rathalos, you had breaking news. What's happening?
Yeah, this is one that was tweeted out, I think as the show was going live, from Noble via Insider Gaming. Ballistic Moon, which is the studio that did the Until Dawn remake, has reportedly shut down. According to Insider Gaming sources, only the founders remain, and possibly a handful of employees.
Damn.
Yeah. So 2 back-to-back place. I mean, Ballistic Moon isn't a PlayStation studio, but obviously they just did a PlayStation studio project.
Until Dawn, which wasn't like greatly received.
Yeah, but obviously with all these stories, our hearts go out to the developers,
of course.
And there are bullet points to talk about here, as far as like, you know, we've seen the story over and over again.
I was gonna say, we're rinse and repeating.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rinse and repeat, as far as like, oh man, the games industry is in such like a rough place right now. You know, a lot of studios shutting down, a lot of layoffs are happening. I think this is one that I think steps out a bit more in terms of visibility, because it is a PlayStation studio, right? And so you look at it and you're like, oof. Yeah, like it feels like we see this happen. Man, I want to say less from first parties, but that's not even true, because we've seen it happen for Xbox. We've seen the Bungie stories as well. So I don't know. It just sucks to see. Like every week, there's another story like this. Is there anything that sticks out to you?
What sticks out to me about this one isn't anything. I mean, we've talked about this, as you said. Hearts go out to everybody. This industry's crazy right now. It's insane the amount of people who've been laid off this year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's more piggybacking off of the conversation we were just having about Last of Us in a part 3, yes or no, where we're like, well, if things got dire, and you come here and it's like, well, PlayStation's laying off people from inside the house.
Yes.
The call's coming from inside the house. So it is, at what point is there we need bangers? And I think what's interesting about, and I hate to make this layoff story about Naughty Dog, but trying to stitch them together, right, is I wonder if PlayStation looks at Naughty Dog and says, it doesn't matter if you, we don't need you to make Last of Us 3. You can make Intergalactic, because you are now a brand, right? That was my concern when they did Last of Us originally, part 1, when it was just The Last of Us, where it was like, oh, this will be an interesting case, because Uncharted's been gaining so much steam. You've been doing the sequels. Everyone's, getting more and more millions of units sold or whatever. Now you jump to this, will the audience understand? The audience understood that, okay, Naughty Dog is the people making these games. And so, I wonder with Naughty Dog if they can do that and get away with it. But then, is the answer when you look at something like Visual Arts, when you look at people getting laid off at Bend or whatever, is it that, you give them a Last of Us? You take these IPs that are established and give them to try to let them keep their jobs, or you keep laying these people off? And, how do you build new IP?
I think that's the right thing, right? I think you talk about the risk of making a new IP as Naughty Dog when you have Uncharted and you have Last of Us. I think context bringing into that as well is the fact that they were making Last of Us Online. And so as Intergalactic is coming out as a new single-player IP, you had another thing that was the multiplayer version of one of your very popular IPs that was going to be an ongoing revenue generator for you. And so you have that safety cushion there.
Yeah.
I'm with you that Naughty Dog is a brand, and Naughty Dog, I think, with a new IP, most likely you're going to have a success and you're going to have a sales success. You're going to have something that is going to blow up and be the next talk of the town and all that shit, right? And it's going to be Game of the Year contender, all that shit. But I do think that you have to look at the IP you have. And honestly, I am on the side of, all right, it's what you said earlier, as far as make a Last of Us in a different characters, different region or whatever, and give it to a different studio. I think that's what you have to do. You have to make another single-player Last of Us game. You have to make another single-player Uncharted game. Doesn't have to be Nathan Drake, right? Doesn't have to be Joel and Ellie. But when you have these studios that are, that are receiving the effects of Concord being a failure and God of War Online, like God of War Online getting canceled in this shit, right? And your only solutions so far are remaster Last of Us. Remaster Last of Us Part 2. Ah, shit. Errata Last of Us is a remaster. It's like people, you're doing things that almost feel like, I know they're not desperate per se because these are just regular business moves.
Yeah.
But it feels like last resorts as far as, hey, we got to do something to get money out of this franchise, and so we're gonna remaster these things so we can get to the next game. What happens when you're out of that?
And then you get back to this thing we're talking about, right? Of like the art versus the business of it. And people are always like, I think the layoffs happen and the conversation from us as the gamers and all this stuff is like, oh man, what does this mean for the people who are trying to get into the games industry? They see this. Are they going to want to do it? Are they going to want to leave? Yada, yada, yada. And I haven't seen in my limited knowledge of talking to the younger generation of game devs when I'm at a DICE and I see like the scholars there, that there's still this passion to come do it, right? No matter how hard it is. And granted, you can think of an indie project, a smaller thing, blah, blah. Where I get concerned to a degree is the business versus the art of it, of I am coming to this studio to make the next great PlayStation IP. I'm coming in and we're starting this new thing, we're gearing it up and we're going for it. And you work on it for a year and a half or 2 years, it gets killed, and then they come in and say, you got to make Uncharted, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's where it gets to me. I went to try to find it because I saw it go through there. You know, I'm reading off of Games Radar Plus from way back in the day, but it was the concern when a new report from Bloomberg has supposedly revealed a ton of interesting information about the way Sony's moving forward with production plans for its games, including a look at the potential Last of Us remake. So this is old. Hidden underneath, blah, 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 blah. Sony's prioritization of biggest games and studios has created a ripple effect across the organization. For example, over the last year, Sony's Bend studio, once seen as a rising star, has now been assigned to support Naughty Dog and feared becoming Naughty Dog North. Mm. That's what I think more of. These people going to the studios with these hopes and dreams of making whatever, and then it's like, no, now you just have to make this other thing that isn't your passion, and the audience is looking at you saying it's not your Naughty Dog North, and this, yeah. And I know this is a weird whatever, but it's back to the, if I'm Herman Hulst, yeah, I'm like, fucking make more Last of Us games. What are you trying to make? Yeah. Fuck that shit. Make a Last of Us game. You know?
Yeah, it's like, how do we get these Marvel licenses to more of our studios?
Yeah,
like Insomniac, you're doing not Iron Man. You're doing Spider-Man. You're doing Wolverine. Cool. Let's fucking get Doctor Strange to the hands of Ben. Let's fucking how do
he rides a motorcycle?
He rides a motorcycle and runs away from a bunch of zombies, right? But I think at the end of the day, it still is a business. It still is the thing of, like, sure, yes, you got hired. You're working at Bend. It's a dream come true. You want to make the next new big PlayStation IP. Like, you're working at a AAA studio for a gigantic publisher, yep. Right? You're working for PlayStation, which is under Sony, which is maybe under another thing, I don't know. But like, you are in the top tier of, hey, we got to make these financial decisions. Yep. And a lot of the time that does come down to IP. And I hate it. Like, I'm not saying anything that I like currently.
I don't know. I guess this is the thing, is I feel like that wasn't always the case. I feel like that wasn't always the case. And even now, is it the case? Is it not? But whatever, like, it wasn't always the case where it did feel like the first parties were making weird shit and doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, like, but that was 2 generations ago,
I know.
Right? Like, you look at video game budgets.
I'm with you. I understand. Yeah. I agree.
Video games are just so out of whack right now, and I'm sad to miss the conversation with Matt Piscatella, because like, I guess a question that I would have asked. Maybe you did ask this question. I only listened to half the episode. I'm sorry. I was traveling.
That's fine. No, you're busy.
But I would have asked, is there an equilibrium in all this? Right? Do we get back to, hey, you're a gigantic developer, but you can make weird shit? Huh. Is that a thing that could happen, Greg?
Oh, that's fine.
Can we get back? Can we make video games great again? JK. Not for real, but
I'm just hitting up Matt.
Greg is typing fervorously. Do you want me to get into the next news story as you're doing this?
No, I mean, I can't. For some reason, I kept fucking up KFGD. You know what I mean?
KGFD.
I'm gonna say, if so, I said, can you dial in for one question on KFGD? If so, join the Discord or the waiting room. Barrett, you be on it. Looking for him. Matt Piscatella might join us, so if I'm gonna move on, but that's what.
Sorry, Tim and I were talking about Daredevil.
Oh, God, I can't wait for Screencast. That fucking opening, you know what I mean? I saw you blue sky about it. That first 15 minutes, come the fuck on. You know what I mean? Then the ending of episode 2. Come on, we're back.
Ending of episode 1 with TV on the radio.
Yeah, I almost skipped volleyball last night because I wanted to watch Daredevil.
You should have.
Season 4.
Should have shown some dedication. Disney's gonna cancel it because they're like, not if people watch it night reason. 1. And so can they get back to that equilibrium?
You know,
I think, yeah, But I think there's gonna be a lot of reckoning before we get there, where it's just like you have to get back to, okay, cool, we're not gonna make sequelitis has to be eliminated. The sequels probably have to fail. You got to do all these different things. I don't know.
Because I guess my question, even to take it, to
I
the
want
next
Herman
step,
on the show. Herman, come be on the show.
What does a healthy AAA video game industry look like in 2025? That's my actual question, right? Like, is there a balance of, hey, we're a publisher? Because obviously we have publishers that we praise and stuff. I look at Capcom. I look at Sega right now, which we'll talk about in a second, right?
Next,
but like, there are publishers that I look at and I'm like, damn, you're doing the damn thing. But those feel fewer and far between. And the question I have is, like, what does a healthy AAA industry look like? Can you have a publisher that is, hey, we have these fucking great franchises, but then we have so many unique, cool things that are experimental and all that shit? Or is that just all up to the indies to do nowadays?
Okay, fair enough. I like that. Matt Piscatella answered the call.
Nintendo's probably is a very good example too, but Nintendo's an anomaly.
Yeah, man. Number 3 on the Roper Report, Sega promises fewer new games, but deeper investments in Sonic, Atlus, and Like a Dragon. This is Andy Robinson at VGC.News, of course, who employs the one, the only, large man, Jordan Midler. Sega is planning to release fewer new games in the next year, but invest in Persona, Sonic, and Like a Dragon Studios, it said. During its current business year, which ends on March 31st, the Japanese publisher has released more than 7 full titles, including Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, Metaphor ReFantazio, Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, and Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Asked about its plans for the next fiscal year, which runs from April 2025 to March 2026, Sega said it would release fewer full games overall. Currently, the company's announced full games, so those that aren't free to play, include Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, and Project Century, plus its legacy IP revivals for Virtual Fighter, Crazy Fucking Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Golden Axe, and Streets of Rage. Quote, the plan is currently being formulated, but we expect the volume of new titles in full game to be lower than this fiscal year, Sega said of its plans for the upcoming period. On the other hand, we expect continuous revenue contribution from repeat sales of new titles in full game this fiscal year and full-scale revenue contribution from new titles in free-to-play, end quote. During the earnings Q&A, Sega was also asked about considering acquiring any external studios to bolster its development efforts. It replied that it would like to strengthen the Persona Studio Atlus, as well as RGG Studio and Sonic Team through the hiring and M&A, merger and acquisition. Quote, Atlus is an important studio for us to expand Japanese IPs overseas, and we think... Oh, all kind of rhymed.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're rapping right now.
And we think it's necessary to strengthen it. And the studios involved in Sonic and Like a Dragon IPs are also short of staff, and we are looking to reinforce personnel through hiring and merger and acquisition, it said. Good, right?
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. Let's not get crazy. Here's what works. Here's what the fans want. I think this goes back to you comparing them to Capcom. Mm-hmm. Hey, we've learned. We see what other people are doing. Let's strengthen what we got. Let's keep going on this, and then do the stuff like Crazy Taxi. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how, like, I had a doc I was trying to find that I lost. I did a few streams in the last couple of years that were my video game developer power ranking, which sometimes we get into publishers because some developers and publishers are kind of conflated. Things like Capcom. But like right now at the top of my list, I think are Capcom and some of those Sega studios, specifically a studio like Atlus, where, man, y'all have these franchises that are hitting consistently when you want to talk about a Like a Dragon franchise or Sonic, right? And Sonic obviously wavers in quality a lot, but at least the games come out and the Sonic fans happy. And that's what matters. The fact that the fans are happy and the games are selling well, those are the two biggest things. It might not be critical hits, but Sonic fans, I don't think give a fuck about that at this point. You're doing that, but then also, like you have Virtual Fighter and Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio and Golden Axe and Streets of Rage. What sauce do they have over there at Sega that allows them to do this? And we look at these other studios that we've been talking about, these other publishers we've been talking about already this show, and it doesn't feel like they're able to replicate that sort of variety. Good for Sega.
I think, again, it's expectation. I think it's knowing or guessing what an IP can do and not overestimating it. I think Sega, Sega ate a big old piece of humble pie, right, when they left the console industry, and then they lost their way for quite some time, and then they've come back to where they are. So it's like they've been through the ringer and all this different stuff to where I think you look at them, and most people would look at them and not think of them as, no shade, but a top tier publisher. I think they've climbed the power rankings. They've come back from when they were really low. But I think having that mentality means that they're putting out games that they're not needing to set. It's not Ubisoft. It's not Square, where you put out this game and it does well, but not well enough. And you're like, oh, fuck it. I mean, the Sonic sickos are there for the game. Yep. Good, great, cool. That's what we need for you. Crazy Taxi sickos are going to be there for Crazy Taxi.
And not to be long-winded, but I think they also treat their IPs in a very smart way. It's a similar way as we talk about Nintendo, where there's 3D Mario, there's 2D Mario, there's Mario Kart, yada, 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 right? With Sonic, there's 2D Sonic, there's 3D Sonic, there's the fucking Sonic visual novel where he gets murdered, which is a real game.
I remember.
There's Sonic the Racing that's coming up, but then you look at Yakuza. There's Pirate Yakuza. There's Yakuza Gaiden. There's the mainline. Like either you look at Persona. There's Persona Dancing. There's the Persona fighting game that gets remastered. There's mainline. There's There's
Persona Tactics.
There's Persona Tactics.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a smart way to go about, hey, we have a built-in fan base. How do we create variety within our IP? That's something I think more developers or more publishers could learn from. And I think it's something that you're able to do also when you spread out your IP between different developers.
Sure. Number 4 on the Roper Report, the Avengers directors are open to Doomsday and Secret Wars video games. This is Darren over at GameSpot. The next film from Avengers Endgame directors Joe and Anthony Russo, The Electric State, is set to release on Netflix on March 14th, and will be accompanied by a prequel video game. With the duo also set to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, they were recently asked if they are interested in developing games for those films. Something that the pair say they're potentially interested in, but they are currently prioritizing their other commitments. What makes this proposition interesting is that Fortnite creator Donald Mustard recently joined their media company AGBO, a partnership that the Russos say will allow them to tell new stories across trans-media projects. Quote, "We would be definitely open to it," Joe Russo said to Variety. "Right now, what we're doing is creating new IP. At AGBO, they don't say Agbo, right?
I mean, I say Agbo.
At Agbo! Well, it's all... yeah, I guess that's how he's talking. We want to tell new stories. We want to tell new stories with new characters and new worlds that people haven't seen before. So Anthony and I and Donald are working together to build out new worlds. And we have 3 that we're currently working on, that the intention is that for every world we build to have a scale and depth of a Star Wars universe, but in a different genre. And then we'll build materials around those new worlds. We'll tell stories in different ways using different media in those worlds," end quote. You ain't getting no fucking Doomsday Secret Wars game.
I hope not.
I think Donald Mustard, as they call out for Fortnite, even if you're like, I don't really know that guy, you know Donald because, of course, he was the one next to Jeff every Game Awards talking about the big crossover they're going to do in Fortnite. I imagine that's what you're going to talk, you're talking about taking a property and make it transmedia and doing all that stuff. I think that's the easiest early way to go do that. They're talking about this Electric State movie, which I don't know anything about, but I didn't know there was a prequel video game for it. That's a different ball of wax. Here you get immediately into, we'd be open to it. Well, sure, but then there's Marvel games. And how does that tie in? And then, we haven't done this. And if Avengers Doomsday is set for next year, is it actually going to be next year? Who knows? You know how movies are. Secret Wars is 2027. Like, if you wanted video games about those that were like the kind of video games we're probably thinking of as gamers, should have started that 5-7 years ago.
Yeah, it's such a statement from
they threw away the Kang game, I'm sure.
It's such a statement from people in the movie industry and not in the game industry, where I'm sure any games industry person sees that quote and is like, all right, good luck. I think the only way you can make it happen is, partnership with Fortnite.
We're going to do a mobile thing. We're going to do a smaller game. We're going to do, you know what I mean?
Donald Mustard, he's still connected to Fortnite? Is he still the head of...
No, he left. He's
left.
at Epic. Yeah, he left. Yeah.
Okay, well, that.
But I mean, he sells the contacts, like.
Because I imagine I would fit this in with the.
Oh, is this the game?
Yeah.
Oh, so there you go. See, yeah, like again, no insult to this game that I don't know anything about, but okay, so it's like, wait, are you playing it on your phone or are you not playing on your phone?
It seems like it's on your phone.
This is a weird one.
So it's a bunch of little mini games, but it's on Go on the Adventure. It's kind of the
longest trailer.
They're doing something neat with it where it's not just like a whatever stupid mini game or whatever, but there's stuff going on. Doesn't matter.
But I mean, Fortnite has the whole Disney partnership,
of course.
Right? So I'd imagine that for something that's on the level of Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, I would think you're doing a Fortnite.
You're 1,000% doing Fortnite integration.
Yeah, but that's like the extent that I see this going.
Yeah, me too. God bless him. Good luck.
Good luck.
But just to throw a quote out, we'd be open to it. Nobody's doing it yet. No one, you know what I mean?
That sounds like a good idea. Making a video game. Let's do that for Doomsday.
I'll tell you what it sounds like. It sounds like big news.
It sounds huge.
But if I wanted smaller news, say the tiniest news I needed to know about, where would I go?
You'd go to our last story, the Wii News channel, where we cover all the small news items you need to know about.
Number 5, the Wii news. From GameSpot, developer Bad Guitar Studio has announced that it has delayed the PS5 and Xbox releases of Fragpunk due to a technical difficulty, though the PC version will still launch tomorrow, March 6th. A new release date for the console versions has not been revealed. Activision has announced a release date for Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Warzone's upcoming Season 3. It's April 3rd. And then from VGC.news, home of the big man, Jordan Midler, 2K has announced the WWE 2K25 DLC roster, which includes iconic TNA wrestlers and NBA stars. Highlights include Abyss, a TNA legend who has never appeared in the WWE. Other TNA stalwarts, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, will make their WWE video game debut as DLC characters. But no Joe Hendry.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Penta's in there. You know, a lot of people you'd expect, but no Joe, which boo.
In the VGC article, it seemed like they didn't detail the NBA stars.
They didn't in the official announcement either.
What NBA?
I sent you the press release. It was very, very top level of just like.
Are there any NBA stars that are specifically tied to WWE that would be the obvious ones?
Like current ones?
Or is this just because it's 2K, so they have the NBA
You
license?
would assume it's probably because of 2K, but I don't know. Hold on, I'm trying to get back to the thing.
Because I can spare somebody as LeBron James. I'm down.
Sure. I mean, there's history. I mean, you know, we have Dennis Rodman, the Worm, in there from the old WCW days.
All right, it's gonna be LeBron James.
Yeah,
It's gonna be LeBron James.
Karl
everybody.
Malone, he did stuff.
It's gonna be
out there.
him. It's gonna be Luka Doncic.
Yeah, a couple of these have, you know, like special celebrity guests to be announced. The Duncan Destruction Pack is in June 2025. It's Abyss, Great Khali, and 3 NBA stars to be announced.
3.
I don't need 3.
It's gonna be the big 3.
You know what I mean? Fucking make
LeBron.
Just go and make fucking Joe Hendry.
Michael Jordan. Kobe.
Okay.
I mean, if you got 3 to choose from.
No John Stockton.
Sorry, John. We got John Cena over here.
And that's it for the Wii news. We've been good about getting the super chats in here. Let's see. We had 2 more come in before we get out of here. Aaron Lime says, Sony seems to be downsizing its USA studios over rising prices per Herman Hulst. I think the only silver lining here are that they're shifting focus to Japan studios and tightening blockbuster budgets. Still sucks, though.
Didn't they just do the opposite? Didn't they shift focus from Japan studios to like Western studios?
I mean, how just do you want to be?
I mean, like 5 years ago?
Yeah, no, that's they moved the whole HQ here and stuff like that. And the final super chat comes from Sergio, who says, Portillo's announced a new location coming to San Antonio. Excited to see what the hype is about, even though Greg refuses to give Whataburger a fair shot. Now, here's the fucking, Sergio, you will enjoy Portillo's. I'm glad you're getting one in San Antonio. I'm glad Andy and the Spurs can eat there whenever they're doing their whole thing. I've given Whataburger a fair shot. Okay? I've given Whataburger a fair shot. I don't know how. The only way I could be more fair would be to fly to the Houston airport terminal that Andy always talks about and eat there. I've never gone into Whataburger being like, you know what I want to eat? A fucking bag of trash. And you know what they serve me every time? A bag of fucking trash. The burgers are trash. Now I'll do that. I'm a man of my word. All right. I told Andy, put it on the fucking, when they used to do the, hey, how many subs? We'll do a fucking thing. I said, Andy, let's fly to the Houston airport. Just go there, get the burger, and fly home. And he was all about it until he wasn't all of a sudden. So don't come at me and say, I'm not giving it a fair shot. All right. I've given it a fair shot. Andy's not giving it a fair shot. Andy doesn't like you.
I can see them putting Draymond Green in the WWE game. He's the guy that be choking people out on court.
What about Grandmama?
Who?
Larry Johnson.
Oh.
Let's go.
That was before my generation.
Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, that's another episode of Kind of Funny Games Daily in the Bank. Remember, we're here each and every weekday live on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, and podcast services around the globe. If you love that, you probably love us. We're a small business of 11 people, all about live talk shows. You just got Games Daily. That means Gamescast is up next, talking about how we could save WB games. Then it's going to be a screencast where we talk about the episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again. And then it's going to be a stream. Is it Dark Souls? Is it more Monster Hunter?
I've been told.
I've been told that one, Andy, the Nitro Rifle Cortez, is coming in.
Now, how healthy is he?
Exactly. You want to be locked in a room with him?
I'm not sitting next to a man that's sneezing and wiping his nose.
I haven't
I'd be doing that
seen
a lot,
him
but
in the
still.
last couple of days, which, is usual, even though I'm his roommate. But
Fair.
So I can't really comment on that.
I'm not trying to get sick.
Then remember, of
flying.
course, at 5 o'clock tonight, apparently, is the 12-hour Monster Hunter streams posting on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock with all sorts of stuff. And, of course, tomorrow you'll also get the giant Let's Play of Split Fiction as a YouTube premiere. And then, of course, Friday, it, of course, is the Nicklocke Season 2. They're hunting the Pokemon in Johto. Everyone's stoked about it. Nick's giving double thumbs up. Oh, he's coming out. He's coming out.
Whoa.
He's doing his little
Whoa, look at
little
this
run
outfit he
in
has
a
on.
really cool jacket. Are we going to sell these jackets, Nick?
We are going to sell these jackets, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to go on sale on Friday. kindoffunny.com/store. Man, they're cozy.
That's clean. A clean design right
They're
there.
selling a blue variant as well with the original character on it.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
gonna be-
I like that. Let me feel it. Oh, it's like a raincoat, too.
It's Champion Anorak. There you go.
Yeah. What are they?
It's actually Champion?
Oh, yeah. It's quality.
Wow. This is going to cost you
Wow.
your first house, ladies and gentlemen and envies.
That's a good question. We should set the price. I'll figure that out.
All right. This is a Kind of Funny Games Daily wrapping up. There's so much more stuff. Like, subscribe, share, pick up a membership. He's already sick.
There it is. That's
Andy's
allergies.
germs jumped on Nick, and then they jumped on you, and there
it's
it
my
is.
permanent allergies. They never go
Oh,
away.
my God. He's
I have a
allergic to
deviated
great
septum.
hosts.
It happens.
Until next time, everybody, it's been our pleasure to serve you.